of 9 members elected from each city district for a 2-year term. The mayor serves as an ex officio member by virtue of office and only votes to break a tie vote. The school committee adopts and oversees the administration of an annual operating budget for the school department, appoints a superintendent of the schools, and works to make all reasonable rules and regulations for the management of the public school system. The following school committee meeting coverage is brought to you by the Government Channel, a service of the City of Framingham.
On why?
Thank you very much. Thank you for your comments and for coming tonight. We'll make sure we distribute the books and hope you feel better as well. Last person who signed up for public comment is Brandale. Randolph, welcome.
Thank you for having me. Next week, across this country, will be United Hate Week, as just mentioned in reference. There will be cities across this country that will be united for the days between November 17th and November 23rd, hosting events to educate the general public about the pervasiveness of hate in our society and our country. Framingham will take part of this. As a city, I think it's important, in light of our recent actions, that we also take part. How we do this is going to be up to us individually and within our working organizations as to how this is going to take place. We still are planning several events, and we're going to be involving a lot of current community activists and organizations to be a part of this. But there are 3 things I want to state emphatically tonight, because the rhetoric online and everywhere else has gotten out of hand. First and foremost, I have no interest in running for any office whatsoever. You guys can have that. Thank you. My intention on being a part of this event is to create an atmosphere in which we can create a better community for all of our children, and particularly the most vulnerable. That is my hope, and I hope that all those who support this event share that primary mission and sentiment. Secondly, the key phrase in Framingham United Against Hate is united. As many scholars have noted, there can be no unity without healing. There can be no healing without atonement. And there can be no atonement without first having self-reflection. Are we brave enough to look at our own blind spots? Are we brave enough to accept criticism for those who love us enough to point them out? And are these blind spots helping us to create better organizations and silos that can be better for our children? It is my hope that as we retreat to our own silos, we don't reemerge with more empty rhetoric. My hope is that after this week, we emerge with more bold policies to help cure some of the ailments of our communities. The creation, adoption, and execution of these policies will not be easy and leave most of those who stand either or for against it with many sleepless nights. But are they worth to ensure brighter days for our children? And finally, I am very disappointed at a lot of the rhetoric that has happened over the last couple of days. I received a threatening phone call last night with my involvement. And I emphatically want to say that such cowardice, I will not bow to. This is a city that I want to raise my children. Children that attend our public schools. This is a city that I believe is possible to show the rest of the world what is possible when we put aside our petty differences and bond together in unity and stand against something that threatens the future for our children, particularly those who are most vulnerable. I thank you for your support. I thank you for acknowledgement. And I thank you in advance for all the help this weekend in the planning of these events and things that will occur. Thank you so much.
For those comments and for everyone else for coming tonight. All right, so let's go forward with our agenda quickly. Some announcements. separately because of race, faith, ethnicity, gender, age, disability, sexual orientation, or any other real or perceived difference, and whereas Framingham supports the efforts of all who promote inclusiveness, celebrate diversity, and bring together communities to combat hatred and prejudice, and whereas Framingham is proud to participate in the United Against Hate Week, during which people from various cities and towns are celebrated for taking action to build communities that are safe and inclusive for everyone, now therefore be it resolved that the Framingham City Council, Mayor, and School Committee come together in recognition of a day when we proclaim with one voice that hate, bigotry, and bias are not welcome in our city, in our state, in our country, and in our world. Do hereby proclaim the week of November 17th through 23rd, 2019, as Framingham stands united against Hate Week. That is the proclamation that was submitted to us this morning. Is there a motion or a comment, Ms. Hugo?
I wholeheartedly support lending our name to this request, especially in lieu of the horrendous acts that have happened in the last few weeks with social media and other physical acts. It's necessary to educate our entire community and protect our kids and show our support. So I make the motion to approve this request.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Mr. Finley. Any further discussion? Ms. Pascal?
So if I'm understanding this, we're voting to support this proclamation to, but what our will is for the school is that we'll be offering space. So I have a lot of questions regarding this matter. We have been dealing with a lot of different issues around hate in our community for some time now, specifically around racism and all the isms, and is why we created the Subcommittee for Racial Equity on the school committee. We most recently have started many different initiatives that to address the curriculum, policies, hiring diversity, and professional development of our staff. So my question is, who's running? What are we really supporting? Where did this initiative come from, and what are we really supporting? Because obviously I'm hearing from Dr. Tremblay that we're giving, the school's going to give space, but who is going to run this? To be serious about this matter, it is not about a proclamation, a resolution, or an ordinance. It is about the work that we do, and we have watched this committee hold up an equity audit for over a year and where we're at. So if the intentions are real to be able to come and do this and get behind us as a photo op this evening to say we're going to proclamate and do this, what are we actually going to do?
It's Brian.
Okay, so when I looked at it, well, one, I was curious that it just popped up recently, but I did do some research. So it's primarily in California, several districts in California. The ordinance sounds good. There's plenty of ordinances. What actual activities are going to occur? Has there been any? Who's making the planning? Who is this group? I know what the bigger community is. You can log on and say, I want my town to participate in this and whatnot. So anybody can go on and say that. I looked at the website. I have big concerns about, not the website, the Facebook page. Frankly, it looks kind of thrown together, and I think that there's all kinds of ways that could be misused. I'm not saying the intention was there, but I'm just saying that. So in terms of the ordinance, it sounds good, but as Mr. Brandale said, about rhetoric versus actual action and unity, that type of thing. The ordinance is fine, but in terms of what action are we actually committing to? What space did they ask for which activities? Who drove this initiative? Because I spoke to many community groups, and none of them were aware of it or were privy to it or engaged or asked to engage with it. So I'm just curious. Does anyone have any?
All great questions. I think we need to get some answers on that. Just a reminder that we have a motion specifically to the proclamation that does not mention the items you're talking about. So let's continue on the list, and then we'll get back to those questions as well. Mr. Labarge and then Ms. Maskell.
Thank you. I'm looking at that, and I'll tell you, if I could go and sign that sign on there as well, I would do so. I just figure I go on record with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Maskell.
I just wanted to say that, first of all, this is just a proclamation. It's not an ordinance. It's not anything else other than saying that we're declaring that we're denouncing hate, that we celebrate our diversity, and that they're declaring the week. So this has nothing to do, not even to do with the group, other than declaring this. I don't know why we're asking all these questions, because I'm pretty sure it didn't come from a school. Like, this didn't start with Framingham. So, with the schools. So I'm confused why all of these questions are being asked when the person who did this is not here, who started the campaign for this, is here to even ask those questions.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor. Any questions specific to the motion, and then we can finish up the superintendent's update by answering these questions. Mr. Epstein?
Yeah, I just want to say this is something you take at face value, and it's a way for the mayor and the council and the school committee to join together and say this is something that we're on board with. And then the actions obviously follow. Like, I want to be a good person, and then you do whatever is necessary. So I think it's a really great way for us to say together, just like we say this is a welcoming city, this is something that we need to do, and it is important to say it in these times. So I'm all for it.
Mr. Alexander, and then Mayor Spicer.
No, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm fully in support of this, obviously, and I kind of echo with Mr. Randolph that made an eloquent speech and presentation to us tonight, and I think basically he's calling for once this kind of goes through, that everybody has some kind of individual and collective action. I'm not sure if it has to be like organized and so to speak, but I think collectively it gives us a pause to say, okay, what do we want to do? What do you want to do individually or as a group? So I think there's various ways that this proclamation is just kind of opening up that channel for people to do something. So I'm not too concerned about who is actually doing it or whatever, but I think it's given an opportunity for people to act.
Thank you. Mayor Spicer.
Thank you for that entree, Mr. Epstein. As I have consistently done throughout my tenure as mayor, is made a point of making sure that diversity is important front and center. Everything I have done has tried to exhibit that. Several weeks ago, when we had an incident at McCullough School, we also had an opportunity to once again make another statement. So I've consistently made statements, and this particular proclamation came to me yesterday. And it sounded like, once again, something we were doing similar to raising the pride flag. We did a joint proclamation with the city council as well as school committee. And once again, I see that as us working together. I see it as working together. However, when I've learned that this is something that people were excluded, because I did not realize this was a part of a concerted organization. And I got questions about it, and I said they didn't know about it. And then I started to get phone calls from organizations telling me they're coming to do some work, and do I know about it? And I'm not sure what's happening. So it's more so about us talking to each other. See, it's very easy to sign this and then move on to the next thing. But it's talking to each other. And I'm being perfectly honest, I'm feeling a little uncomfortable because I know that there are groups that came together 3 weeks ago as a result of the situation at McAuliffe, people representing many entities in this city, to have the critical conversations around unproductive behavior in our community. And they're certainly feeling very much out on this. They said, wait a minute, we're working on this. Where did this come from? So that's the other thing, too. It's about us having the conversation. I definitely say it's important to make a statement. But it's not just this. It's also what's the action that is going to come behind the statement. What are the proactive steps that our children can come to school and feel that they will be protected and safe, whether they're in school or on a ball field, that they will not have to feel like they don't have an adult that they can work with. So those are the kinds of things. And I hear what you're saying here, but I keep hearing we're going to give space to do what? So I'm still a little, I know, and it feels reactionary. If that's what it feels like for me, we're reacting as opposed to being proactive in how do we move forward.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with what you said in the closing. Just a reminder, we have a motion for the specific text of this proclamation, and then we will go back to the other questions that are not part of that motion. Any members who haven't spoken yet, and then we'll go to second round. Mr. Wadland?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So listening to all these perspectives, and I certainly appreciate all of them, the phrase that keeps coming to my mind is necessary but not sufficient. As I think everyone has pointed out, a simple proclamation is not sufficient. We have specific work that we need to do as a community. That being said, that doesn't detract from the value of this proclamation or the words within it. So with that, I respectfully call the question.
Second.
All right, there's a motion to call the question. It's not debatable. It requires a 2/3 vote to stop debate and call the question. All those in favor of calling the question on the proclamation, and as I mentioned, we'll go right back to still talk about these topics. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All opposed? Abstentions?
Opposed. I'm sorry, I'm opposed.
Yep, didn't see a hand. Okay, passes 7-2. All right, now we'll call the question. All those in favor of
So we don't get to discuss it.
all those in favor of lending the school committee's name to this proclamation? Opposed? Passes 7-2. Now back to the remainder of the superintendent's update. There were a lot of excellent questions separate from this proclamation about what space means and more. So, not to put you on the spot, Dr. Tremblay, if you want to answer it tonight or go back for the future agenda, I'll turn over to you.
Yeah, I apologize. I don't have much to offer in the way of details. The reach to me was more if we were to have a conversation in the community around a national effort, because so the timing of it is to align with the national effort that's happening with, as I understand it. And the question was to me is there space in the district that could be made available? And looking at one of the dates being next week, November 21st. And so that was what I looked to do. To try to engage. Having been with the mayor today, and I can't speak for this specific effort, but having been with the mayor today, with the Attorney General, and hearing from students directly, there's clearly a need to have dialogue and talk about this as much as we can every day. The more we can call it out and name it and have conversations about it, even if it's difficult, we should be doing that. I do also want to make sure that we have that someone who's skilled at managing that conversation, because to just have the conversation and then to walk away from that is problematic. So there's a real skill set around that the ADL is very adept at managing, and other groups. I'm not aware of I'm not into the weeds on that. Again, the involvement that I've come up with, saying how can the school department be a partner in engaging student voice and in procuring space. That's where my scope of involvement is, and I fully support that, because it's an opportunity for our kids to engage in conversations that they need to have, frankly.
Can we have a conversation now?
Yes, Ms. Pasquale and Ms. Bryan had their hand up. If you still wanted to go.
Thank you. So I'm highly disappointed at this committee because continuously we're rushing to go to do a proclamation when